Some people fear clowns, others fear death. But then there are those who panic at paper, butterflies, or even thinking. Welcome to the United States of phobia, where no object, idea, or living creature is too strange to be absolutely terrifying. This isn't about rational fears, it's about the ones that make no sense and yet completely take over your brain. Don't worry, we won't judge, unless you're afraid of ducks. That one's just hilarious. Or is it? 1. Spectrophobia isn't just fearing ghosts, it's fearing seeing them. For people with this phobia, mirrors aren't just for selfies or checking if there's spinach in your teeth. They're potential portals to a supernatural horror show. Some sufferers even remove mirrors from their homes entirely, just to avoid that dreaded, "what was that behind me?" moment. So next time someone says they're redecorating their house and ditching all the mirrors, maybe don't ask too many questions. They're not being minimalist. They're trying not to have a panic attack every time they brush their hair. 2. Venestrophobia, or the fear of beautiful women, sounds like a bad pickup line excuse. Sorry, I'm just medically terrified of you. But it's real. And debilitating. This phobia can make social situations a waking nightmare, where casual conversation feels like walking a tightrope over a pit of judgment and rejection. Imagine getting sweaty palms, heart palpitations, and a full-on fight-or-flight response just because someone pretty walked by. In extreme cases, people avoid entire social settings just to dodge the panic. That's not being shy, it's beauty-induced terror. Bet you never thought charm could be a health hazard. 3. Judeophobia is less quirky and more deeply disturbing. It's not just a phobia, it's a prejudice wrapped in fear, tied to a long, ugly history. Rooted in anti-Semitism, this irrational fear has justified everything from exclusion to outright violence. And while some phobias make people avoid bats or dentists, this one fuels conspiracy theories and hate crimes. The term is still used today to describe that toxic mix of fear and bigotry. So if you hear someone blaming them for controlling the media, the banks, or the weather, yeah, you're probably looking at a case of judeophobia in the wild. 4. Odontophobia might sound like a Harry Potter spell, but it's the reason your friend hasn't seen a dentist since 2004. This fear of dental work goes beyond mild discomfort. It's full-on dread. For some, the mere sound of a drill can cause a panic attack. Others skip routine cleanings for years, risking major health problems just to avoid that sterile smell and bright light. And honestly, who designed dental tools to look like medieval torture devices? Even people without odontophobia get nervous. But for those who suffer from it, the dentist isn't a healthcare provider. It's the villain in their personal horror story. 5. Wiccaphobia sounds like someone watched Hocus Pocus one too many times and never recovered. This fear of witches or witchcraft isn't just a quirky leftover from the Salem trials, it's still very real for some. Despite witch hunts being centuries behind us, well, mostly, the word witch still sends shivers down certain spines. Modern Wiccans and pagans, often treated like they're casting curses just for fun. Wiccaphobia fuels everything from religious intolerance to neighborhood drama. Did you see her crystal collection and that incense? Definitely summoning something. Spoiler. It's probably just vibes. 6. Pseudodysphagia, the fear of choking, turns every meal into a high-stakes operation. Picture someone cutting their food into microscopic pieces, chewing like a paranoid squirrel, and sipping water after every bite like they're defusing a bomb. It's not just cautious eating, it's survival mode. This phobia can spiral into full-on food avoidance, weight loss, and social isolation. And don't even mention peanut butter. It's basically nightmare fuel. For some, even swallowing pills is like playing Russian roulette with their esophagus. So if someone refuses to eat that steak you grilled, maybe it's not an insult. Maybe they just don't want to die at your barbecue. 7. Agemophobia is the fear of sharp objects. And no, it's not just about being afraid of knives. We're talking panic at the sight of needles, scissors, or even pencils with an aggressively pointy vibe. For someone with this phobia, a trip to the doctor's office feels like entering a gladiator arena. And forget about enjoying sushi. It's hard to relax when chopsticks feel like weapons of doom. Some even flinch at the sight of a sharpened eyebrow pencil. The world is full of pointy things. And for hmophobes, every one of them is a potential threat. It's like living in a Final Destination sequel, only more anxiety, less budget. 8. Chiroptophobia isn't just the fear of bats. It's the fear of that one scene in every horror movie where bats burst out of a dark cave like they just remembered they left the stove on. Thanks to pop culture, bats have become the ultimate creepy critters. Dracula? Bat? Haunted house? Bats in the attic. Halloween decor. Always bats. But the real creatures are more about pest control than vampire cosplay. Still, for those with this phobia, the sound of flapping wings or even the sight of a Batman logo can trigger pure panic. So yeah, no cave tours anytime soon. 9. Triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13, is why your elevator jumps from 12 to 14 like it's performing numerical sleight of hand. It's why some hotels skip room 13 and why people avoid big decisions on Friday the 13th. This phobia is so culturally embedded that it's practically normal. But let's be honest, if a number can ruin your whole day, maybe it's not unlucky. It's just petty. Still, we all know someone who won't step foot on the 13th floor or schedule surgery on that dreaded Friday. Because apparently, math can be cursed now. 10. Anatidophobia is a completely fictional phobia, or is it? It's the fear that, somewhere out there, a duck is watching you. Yes, it started as a joke in the Far Side comics, but it's taken on a life of its own. The internet ran with it, and now there are entire communities ironically claiming to be stalked by judgmental mallards. And honestly, the idea of a duck silently judging you from a nearby bush is kind of terrifying. Not because it's dangerous, just because it might be right. Ducks don't blink much, that's all I'm saying. 11. Euphobia sounds like something you'd make up just to avoid parties. It's the fear of good news. That's right. For people with this phobia, hearing "you got the job" or "we're having a baby" doesn't spark joy. It triggers anxiety. Their brain instantly skips the celebration and dives headfirst into worst-case scenarios. What if the job is awful? What if the baby grows up to hate me? It's like their emotional wiring is stuck in doom mode. So while the rest of us are cheering over lottery wins and surprise vacations, euphobes are quietly bracing for disaster. Silver linings? More like red flags. 12. Phronemophobia, the fear of thinking, sounds like a lazy teenager's dream diagnosis. But for real sufferers, it's a relentless mental trap. The idea of self-reflection, decision-making, or even concentrated thought sends them into a panic. It's not that they can't think, it's that thinking becomes a source of emotional pain. Introspective moments turn into psychological landmines. So no, it's not an excuse to skip homework. It's a real, exhausting mental battle. And if you're wondering how someone with this phobia feels about watching a movie like Inception, they probably didn't finish it. Too many layers. 13. Lachanophobia isn't just hating veggies, it's being terrified of them. This goes way beyond, "I don't like broccoli." It's, "I will cry if broccoli touches my plate." People with this phobia can experience real panic just seeing a vegetable, especially raw ones. Imagine walking through a salad bar like it's a haunted house. For them, a trip to the grocery store is like navigating a battlefield of leafy greens and root-based nightmares. Honestly, it makes that old "eat your veggies" chant sound downright cruel. Maybe they were just ahead of their time, warning us all about kale. 14. Ornithophobia, the fear of birds, might seem silly until you've been dive-bombed by a pigeon on a caffeine rush. For people with this phobia, birds aren't majestic creatures. They're flying anxiety triggers. Beaks, flapping wings, unpredictable movements. It's a full sensory nightmare. Even small birds can cause a full-blown panic attack. Watching a documentary about eagles? Nope. Visiting the park? Not unless the ducks have signed a peace treaty. And don't even mention seagulls. Those snack-stealing sky goblins are the final boss for anyone with ornithophobia. 15. Clinophobia is the fear of going to bed. And no, it's not just, "I'm not tired yet." This phobia makes the very idea of sleeping terrifying. For some, it's tied to the fear of dying in their sleep. For others, it's the fear of nightmares, sleep paralysis, or losing control. Picture your bed, the symbol of rest and relaxation, turning into a horror zone every night. And while the rest of the world begs for just 5 more minutes, clinophobes are counting down the hours in dread. Sweet dreams, not here. 16. Ombrophobia, fear of rain, makes living in Seattle, or basically anywhere that isn't a desert, a daily emotional challenge. We're not talking rain is annoying here. We're talking full-blown panic at the first drop. Some sufferers avoid going outside altogether if rain is in the forecast. Umbrellas? Not enough. Raincoats? Doesn't help. It's like the sky itself is out to get them. Which is tragic, really. Rain can be romantic, calming, and kind of beautiful. Unless you have ombrophobia. Then it's just the sky crying, and you screaming. 17. Ecclesiophobia is the fear of churches or religious places. And no, it's not just leftover trauma from a strict Sunday school teacher. For some, even the sight of a church steeple can spark anxiety. The smell of incense, the sound of organ music, the echo of a sermon, all triggers. Weddings, funerals, even walking past a cathedral? Hard pass. It doesn't matter if they're religious or not. The setting itself is enough to cause distress. So next time you see someone crossing the street away from a church, it might not be about religion. It might be ecclesiophobia calling the shots. 18. Sociophobia isn't just introversion on steroids. It's the crippling fear of being judged, humiliated, or rejected in social settings. Imagine being at a party and feeling like every laugh in the room is about you. Or sweating bullets at the thought of ordering coffee, because what if you say something weird? It can turn everyday tasks, like making a phone call or answering a question, into Olympic-level challenges. For some, the only safe place is complete isolation. But hey, on the bright side, they never have to pretend to like small talk. 19. Emetophobia, the fear of vomiting, sounds niche, but it affects millions. And it's not just about avoiding bad sushi. People with this phobia will alter their entire lives to dodge anything that might lead to nausea. They obsessively check expiration dates, avoid public transit, and side-eye every buffet like it's a biological trap. For some, even hearing someone else is sick can send them spiraling. It's like their brain has a built-in do not puke siren that never shuts off. Gastroenterologists, basically the boogeyman. 20. Amaxophobia is the fear of riding in vehicles. And no, this isn't your average backseat driver energy. This fear can strike even when someone else is behind the wheel, even when the roads are clear and the weather's perfect. It's not just about car crashes, it's about feeling trapped, helpless, or out of control. Public transit? Nope. Road trips? Hard pass. Uber? Only if there's a Xanax buffet. For people with amaxophobia, every journey feels like a potential disaster, and that makes daily life a logistical nightmare. 21. Gephyrophobia, aka the fear of crossing bridges, is like a nightmare that shows up in your GPS. For some, the thought of driving over water or high above ground is enough to trigger full-blown panic. Hands gripping the wheel like it's a life preserver, eyes locked straight ahead, breath shallow. Others can't do it at all. They'll reroute for miles just to avoid one. In extreme cases, people hire someone to drive their car across for them. And honestly, fair. With the way some of those suspension bridges sway, who wouldn't assume they're one pothole away from starring in a disaster movie? 22. Mysophobia, the fear of germs, isn't just about washing your hands a lot. It's the mental Olympics of avoiding contamination. Handshakes? Absolutely not. Public bathrooms? Only if you're in full hazmat cosplay. The pandemic turned this phobia from niche to mainstream nightmare, with sanitizer flying off shelves like it was liquid gold. For some, the fear is so intense they won't leave home, touch doorknobs, or even accept takeout. And forget about pets. They're walking fur-covered germ factories. It's a tough world when your worst enemy is invisible and everywhere. 23. Atylophobia is the fear of imperfection, and it's like having an inner critic with a megaphone 24/7. It's not just, I like things neat, it's, I will mentally implode if this one sock is crooked. These people rewrite emails 10 times before hitting send, and then panic that they still messed up. It's perfectionism cranked up to anxiety-inducing, soul-draining levels. They'd rather not try at all than risk doing something wrong. Ironically, the pursuit of perfection ends up being the most imperfect way to live. But don't tell them that. They'll spiral. 24. Acrophobia, the fear of heights, doesn't require a mountaintop to kick in. For some, standing on a second-story balcony feels like peering into the void. Glass floors in tourist towers? Nope. Stepladders? Dangerous? Rooftop bars? More like rooftop bars of terror. It's not just fear, it's vertigo, racing heart, legs made of jelly. Even watching drone footage can trigger a wave of nausea. People with acrophobia live strictly ground level, thank you very much. So next time you're leaning over a railing for a photo, remember? Some folks would rather Photoshop themselves in. 25. Pediculophobia, the fear of lice, may sound oddly specific, but it's way more intense than childhood memories of the nurse checking your scalp. For sufferers, even hearing the word lice can cause a scalp-scratching panic spiral. Some go full anti-contact mode. No hugging, no shared hats, no sitting on fabric furniture. Public transit? A horror story. They'll scan everyone's head like Sherlock Holmes with a magnifying glass. And yes, they've probably deep cleaned their house so many times. Their vacuum has trust issues. 26. Kumpunophobia, the fear of buttons, is real. And no, it's not just about hating your shirt's fashion sense. For some, buttons trigger revulsion, anxiety, or even nausea. It's the shape, the texture, the way they move. They're tiny, plastic menaces. People with this phobia often avoid buttoned clothes entirely. No polos, no cardigans, no dress shirts. Which, honestly, might be a great excuse to never attend a corporate meeting again. Sorry, can't wear a button down. Medical condition. Try arguing with that. 27. Acousticophobia is the fear of noise. And I don't mean being mildly annoyed at leaf blowers on a Sunday morning. For people with this phobia, even moderate sounds, clinking dishes, laughter, a phone ringing, can feel like an all-out assault. It's not about volume, it's about unpredictability. A noisy restaurant can feel like a war zone. Fireworks? Existential crisis. The world becomes an overwhelming concert of chaos, and all they want is silence. If they had a superpower, it would be the ability to mute the planet. 28. Nyctophobia, the fear of the dark, isn't just for kids with overactive imaginations. It sticks around for plenty of adults too. And it's not because of boogeymen necessarily, it's the unknown. Shadows become monsters, silence becomes sinister, and the slightest creak. Definitely the start of a horror movie. Some people sleep with lights on, blackout curtains open, or avoid basements like they're cursed. Flashlights? Lifesavers. And don't judge. If you've ever sprinted to bed after turning off the light, congratulations. You've had a taste of nyctophobia. 29. Chorophobia, the fear of dancing, isn't about two left feet. It's about feeling like dancing is a public performance where humiliation is guaranteed. Weddings, parties, even TikTok challenges. It's all terror territory. The moment music plays and someone yells, "Come on, just dance!" the anxiety meter spikes. It's not fun, it's pressure. The fear of being judged, looking stupid, or just being seen is enough to keep them glued to their seat like it's a lifeboat. If the floor is lava for kids, then for chorophobes, it's a spotlighted stage with no escape. 30. Chronophobia, the fear of time passing, is like watching your life through a ticking clock and feeling personally attacked by every second. For people with this phobia, aging, deadlines, and the very idea of tomorrow can be overwhelming. Time isn't a neutral force, it's a countdown, a reminder of mortality, missed opportunities, and the crushing weight of not enough. A clock isn't just a tool, it's a source of existential dread. So while most people hate Mondays, chronophobes fear every day. Time flies and they're terrified of the turbulence. 31. Galleophobia, the fear of sharks, isn't just for beachgoers. People with this phobia can feel uneasy just thinking about sharks, seeing one on TV, or even spotting a picture in a book. Thanks a lot, Jaws. That film didn't just ruin summer vacations, It created a generation convinced that sharks have teleportation skills. Galeophobes often avoid oceans, aquariums, and anything resembling a deep body of water. And before you laugh, remember, it's not about logic. It's about a primal fear that somewhere, somehow, a shark is plotting its next cameo. Even in your bathtub. 32. Ophidiophobia, the fear of snakes, is practically a global pastime. Even people who've never seen a snake in real life can have a deep-rooted panic at the mere mention. It's in our cultural DNA. Ancient myths, full of serpents, horror movies, add snakes, instant nightmare fuel. For some, a photo is enough to induce nausea. Hiking through a forest becomes a high-stakes version of Where's Waldo, but with venom. Even a garden hose in the wrong light can send their heart racing. Nature, you sneaky devil. 33. Elevator phobia is the fear of elevators, and no, it's not just about avoiding awkward small talk. For sufferers, stepping into an elevator feels like boarding a mechanical coffin. Trapped, suspended, and completely out of control. It's the trifecta of terror. Some will climb 10 flights of stairs just to avoid that dreaded ding. Claustrophobia? Check. Fear of falling? Double check. And let's not even start on getting stuck. If you've ever looked at an elevator and thought, maybe I do need more cardio, welcome to the club. 34. Gymnophobia is the fear of nudity. And no, it's not just being shy. For some, the idea of being seen naked, or even seeing others naked, triggers a full-on anxiety attack. Locker rooms, torture chambers, beaches, a minefield of exposed flesh. Even movie scenes with nudity can be too much. And don't even mention shared changing rooms. It's not prudishness, it's panic. While the rest of the world debates bikini season, gymnophobes are busy plotting the most secure towel wrap in human history. 35. Rhinodophobia, the fear of frogs, makes gardens feel like Jurassic Park. These people don't see cute little hoppers. They see slimy, unpredictable lepers of doom. The sound of croaking, instant chills. Wet weather, code red. A frog hopping toward them might as well be a stampede of bulls. It doesn't matter if it's the size of a golf ball. Rhinodophobes will vault a fence to escape it. Frogs, it turns out, have mastered psychological warfare without even trying. 36. Taphophobia, the fear of being buried alive, might sound dramatic until you realize it was a real concern back in the day. In Victorian times, people were so scared of premature burial that they installed bells above graves, just in case. And honestly, that level of paranoia feels pretty justified when medicine was basically guessing. Today, taphophobia often links to claustrophobia and existential dread. Haunted houses with coffins, hard pass, zombie movies, too close to home. Just the idea of being trapped underground is enough to make you want to sleep with a shovel nearby. 37. Lepidopterophobia is the fear of butterflies. And yes, it sounds absurd until you realize they're basically flying insects with unpredictable flapping skills and eyes on stalks. While the world sees beauty and transformation, these folks see chaos in winged form. Butterfly houses? More like panic chambers. Even children's cartoons featuring them can be triggering. It's not about the danger, it's the flittery, flaky, freaky movement. And maybe the fact that they start life as caterpillars, turn into mush, and then emerge like, surprise, I'm your nightmare now. 38. Thanatophobia, the fear of death, is probably one of the most universally relatable fears, just turned up to 11. While most of us push those existential thoughts aside, thanatophobes are haunted by them daily. Will it be sudden? Will it hurt? What comes after? They've played out every scenario, and none of them end with, and then I felt fine. Conversations about aging, funerals, or even time passing can set off a spiral. For some, it's not just fear of dying, it's the fear of not living enough before the curtain falls. 39. Koinonophobia is the fear of crowded rooms, and it's a social nightmare for anyone who just wants to blend in. Weddings, conferences, Black Friday sales, they're all coded danger zones. It's not just shyness, it's feeling like every person in the room is judging your breathing pattern. The walls close in, the noise ramps up, and suddenly your brain is begging for an escape hatch. Want to clear a room of a koinonophobe? Just yell, group photo, they'll vanish like a ninja. 40. Panphobia is the fear of, well, everything. It's not a specific phobia. It's more like the background radiation of anxiety. It's waking up already overwhelmed. It's fearing things you can't even name. A doorbell, threat, a cloud, suspicious, a good day, definitely a setup. Panphobia turns everyday life into a minefield where the minds are invisible and everywhere. It's exhausting, unpredictable, and, ironically, exactly what you'd expect from a phobia of literally everything. 41. Trypophobia, the fear of small clusters of holes, might sound niche, but thanks to the internet, it's become the unofficial phobia of the digital age. Think lotus seed pods, coral, honeycombs, or the wrong kind of pancake bubble. Yeah, those images. For trypophobes, these patterns can trigger everything from mild discomfort to full-on revulsion. It's not just you, it's I'm crawling out of my skin. Some researchers link it to a primal fear of disease or parasites. Others just blame Photoshop. Either way, next time you post a satisfying texture video, maybe check if it looks like a horror show to someone else. 42. Agoraphobia is the intense fear of sexual assault. And unlike many phobias, it's rooted in a terrifyingly real possibility. For some, it stems from trauma. For others, from growing up in a world that constantly reminds them they're vulnerable. It's not just anxiety, it's hypervigilance. Walking alone at night, a strategic operation, public transportation, a risk zone. Even casual social settings can feel unsafe. This fear shapes behavior, relationships, and even clothing choices. And while society often dismisses it as paranoia, agoraphobia is more about survival than irrationality. 43. Papyrophobia, the fear of paper, sounds like a prank until you realize how hard life becomes when your enemy is everywhere. Books, receipts, office memos, sticky notes, landmines of anxiety. The texture, the sound, the possibility of a paper cut, it's all too much. Some sufferers can't even look at a crumpled piece without flinching. Digital nomads may call it modern, but for papyrophobes, going paperless is less about convenience and more about staying sane. Who knew your worst nightmare might be hiding in a library? 44. Erythrophobia is the fear of blushing, which turns a harmless facial flush into a full-blown panic spiral. It's not just being embarrassed, it's being afraid of the physical sign of embarrassment. Imagine going red, and then getting anxious because you're going red, which makes you redder. It's a vicious loop powered by cheeks. People with this phobia often avoid social situations, public speaking, or anything that might put them in the spotlight. It's like their face has a betrayal switch, and it's set to maximum sabotage. 45. Decidophobia is the fear of making decisions. And no, it's not just about picking between tacos or pizza. For sufferers, even simple choices can spark intense stress. It's the what-ifs, the overthinking, the paralyzing fear of regret. Should I change jobs? Should I buy oat milk or almond? Should I move across the country or stay in my childhood bedroom until I'm 90? Decisions don't feel empowering, they feel like traps. And ironically, not deciding at all becomes the default choice, which is, in itself, a decision. Oops. 46. Isoptrophobia is the fear of mirrors. And no, it's not just about avoiding bad hair days. For some, mirrors aren't tools. They're terrifying gateways to self-awareness, judgment, or even supernatural paranoia. It's the fear that something else might be looking back. Or worse, you might see something you don't want to face. People with this phobia may avoid bathrooms, cover mirrors at night, or even remove them entirely from their homes. Vampires might avoid mirrors for mythical reasons. Isoptrophobes do it for peace of mind. 47. Hemophobia, the fear of blood, goes beyond squeamish. For some, the mere sight of blood, real or fictional, can cause dizziness, nausea, or even fainting. It's not just about gore, it's about losing control. Medical dramas, hard pass, minor injuries, crisis mode. Even getting a routine blood test can require deep breathing and a support squad. Ironically, a fear of blood often leads to avoiding doctors altogether, which probably doesn't help the health situation. It's like a paradox wrapped in gauze. 48. Cynophobia, the fear of dogs, is tough to manage in a country where every third person seems to own a golden retriever named Buddy. For cynophobes, even the friendliest wagging tail can trigger heart-pounding panic. Barking? Terror? Off-leash dogs? Pure chaos. Forget man's best friend. These folks see canines as unpredictable bundles of danger. And while most people baby talk at dogs, cynophobes cross the street or freeze in place. Dog parks? No thanks. Even mail delivery becomes a strategic operation when you're dodging potential furry threats. 49. Nosophobia is the fear of disease. And in a world of Google symptoms and 24-hour news cycles, it's thriving. Every cough becomes a crisis, every headache a red flag. Sufferers often spiral into anxiety over minor symptoms, convinced they're signs of something catastrophic. They compulsively check their bodies, avoid public spaces, and consult Dr. Internet way too often. The irony? The stress of worrying about illness might actually make them feel worse. It's a self-sustaining fear loop. Basically, nosophobia is like having WebMD embedded in your brain, with none of the chill. Alright, if you're still here, congrats! You just sat through 49 different ways the human brain says, nope. So here's your reward, a fresh opportunity to question your sanity. Subscribe if your phobia isn't being left out of awesome, weird content. And now, I dare you, no, double dare you, to write the strangest phobia you can imagine in the comments. The weirdest, most deranged fake fear you can invent. Let's make this comment section so cursed, even Google regrets indexing it.